All right, this is the program this morning on ITV, and it's now time to take our first guest on the program. This time around, we shall be looking at politics. I remember in the opening of today's edition of TMI, we told you that the PDP now has an acting national chairman following the court's ruling that the national chairman should step aside or should not parade himself as the chairman based on the court's injunction and the suit that was filed in the Federal High Court in Makurdi. So this morning we shall be looking at our PDP leadership tussle or leadership crisis in the PDP and other issues as far as the politics in Nigeria is concerned. Like we are all aware, in a very short period from now, we shall be having a new dispensation with the president-elect will be sworn in by May 29. So we will look at all that expectations from those who have been elected and what Nigerians are expecting from our leaders. What are the governorship level, State House of Assembly, National Assembly, all that will form parts of our discussion for this morning. So I have my guest this morning is A.K. Peters. He is the Executive Director at Certain Leadership Initiative, Concept Development, and also an author, farmer lecturer, and so much, a public relations analyst this morning. Very good morning to you, sir.
Thank you.
You had my intro. Let's begin with the elections itself. You know, this is our first time of being on the program, but as a leadership initiative, what's your own general appraiser of the electoral process so far that produced the leaders who will be inaugurated any moment from now?
In 1999, there was this popular concept of fledgling democracy. After 24 years, I do not think that the Nigerian democracy, in its 9th stanza, will still be referred to as a fledgling democracy. Nevertheless, it is obvious that over time, this democracy has evolved, and this evolution has taken us to thresholds that are new. We have seen so many new developments, so many commendable developments. But I'm also very sad to say that so many things still leave a sour taste in our mouths, because I do not think we have really so advanced from where we were in 1979.
So why did you say so? Because we've seen quality of our leaders, we've seen them come and gone, and if you keep saying democracy has not gotten to that level we've not seen an interruption of the process since the return of democracy in 1999.
That is highly commendable. But the non-interruption that has brought us to the first ever 24 years unbroken civilian rule in the history of Nigeria. You recall between 1960 and 1966, it was only 6 years, or less than 6 years, and the military intervened. Between 1979 and 1983, it was only 4 years, and the military intervened. But for now, we have had an unbroken democracy for 24 years. Yes, not really because the politicians have done so very well, so to say. Not really also because the citizenry have also very committedly given their all in all to democracy. But we must reasonably also thank the military that they have understood that democracy is the way to be. But we must also thank those who have superintended over Nigeria during these 24 unbroken years of democracy that have tried to put the military in check. As I said earlier on, there are good things we can say we have gained or we have taken from the 24 years unbroken democracy. But I still stand my grounds that we have not covered so much grounds that will make us see the difference between 1979 and 2023.
All right, we might still have to get you to give us what you think should be the best differences between now and 1979, as you rightly mentioned. We'll take a quick commercial break, and when we return, we'll still be here with A.K. Peters to look at the issues arising from our discussions. All right, welcome back from that break. We still have in the studio A.K. Peters with us to look at leadership in the PDP. Well, let's look at those who have been elected so far. The elections have come and gone. With the presidential election, some persons are already heading to the election tribunals to challenge the outcome. But those who are already cleared and probably waiting inauguration, what should we be expecting? Should we be hoping that it's going to be a governance of continuous, maybe the ruling party will continue the way it is now, or we are expecting something new from the governor, the president-elect? So what should we be expecting from our new leaders as they assume office?
In the build-up to the elections, political parties and candidates of political parties campaigned vigorously across the country or across the state or across their various senatorial districts or constituencies. And they campaigned on certain things. They had manifestos which they sold to the people. We now expect that after they have been elected and given their certificates of return, upon their inauguration, these manifestos will now be very, very clearly implemented by them. Over time too, we don't seem to hold political office holders by their words. I now know that the manifestos of a lot of these people are before all of us. It is important that both civil society, the general citizenry, and even the political parties themselves should be able to guide the candidates who have now emerged and hold them responsible and accountable to deliver the goods that they promised the people in their various manifestos. If that is done, I think we will cover a lot of mileage. Gone are these days when a politician will come and promise free color television to the school of the blind, and will come and promise water to fish. And after that, we won't see them to do this. But now the people are quite conscious. The people are quite ready now to hold them accountable to their electoral promises after victory.
Well, just like we saw the outcome of the election, so many Nigerians judge this election should be one of the fairest and election. When you look at the presidential elections itself, you know, we had in two segments, presidential and the state governorship elections, and we saw the outcome, the turnout of electorates for that election. Now, if you are talking about holding political officers that are responsible, accountable for what they promise to do the people, do you think Nigerian citizens have that capacity to do that? If we have that kind of numbers of persons coming out to vote, and then when the leader is installed and there are things happening, nobody seems to do anything.
Yes, we do.
It.
We have the capacity. The problem is just that over time, the people have not ignited the potentials in them, the capacity they have. This country belongs to us. We are 202 million Nigerians, and those who hold elective political offices, including those who will be appointed, are not more than 3 million of them. If the people decide to say, you promised us this and you have not done it, and they turn a blind eye to it, well, there are so many processes. We can wait for the next election cycle, and as you have seen in the last election, they will be voted out.
All right, let's look at the issue, the leadership tussle or leadership crisis in the PDP. You must have seen it in the media everywhere. Now it's now an active chairman for the People's Democratic Party.
Did you say active or acting?
acting chairman. Acting chairman for the PDP. I know before now there has been call for the resignation of Ayu from aggrieved party members, who, especially the 5 governors who are known as the integrity governors. Now, looking at this developments yesterday, what does this portray for the opposition party?
It's quite unfortunate that in this climate, political parties hardly have ideologies. Under normal circumstances, a political party is meant to be a group of people who have and share the same ideology and come together for the purpose of capturing political power so that they can promote and project this ideology. Unfortunately, political parties in Nigeria hardly have clear-cut ideology. And by the way, what is an ideology? An ideology is a political philosophy, it's a political principle, it's a political belief, it's a political viewpoint, which will be sold to the electorate to see that political party distinct from another political party. What makes you tick? What makes you different? What stands you out from the crowd? Now, why did I mention the ideology issue? Because if political parties are made up of members who hold the same ideology and intend to promote the same ideology by capturing political power so that they can promote and project this ideology, members of political party will not fight among themselves. The wranglings within and between members of political parties would not be as visible. The fault line will not be as clear as we see them today. Unfortunately, that is the problem we have. Coming to the PDP, which is your question, it's quite unfortunate that a party that prided itself as the largest political party in Africa a few years ago, a party that has formidable democrats, tested and proven people, we have seen them rule Nigeria in 16 years, can come to the level where they would not have overgrown the kind of crisis that we find in PDP today. Yeah, the acting national chairman, who until yesterday was the deputy national chairman, Nod, had to take over as a result of the crisis that has rocked the party. You will recall that in the build-up to the elections, soon after the presidential primaries, there was a call and the appointment of the running mate. Things were never the same again in PDP. After the emergence of His Excellency Atiku Abubakar, former Vice President of Nigeria, as the standard bearer of the PDP. Governor Nyesom Wike, His Excellency, the Governor of Rivers State, took exception to it and to a very large extent worked out together with 4 other governors and about 3 other former governors. If you add the former governor of Plateau State, Jang, the former governor of Ekiti State, the former governor of Cross River State, and the former governor of Ondo State, and so many other people like that, they pulled out of the party. Now, what was their concern? That there was an Asaba Accord, where all southern governors of Nigeria and leaders of the southern part of Nigeria, I guess together with the Middle Belt, met and had a strong agreement that 2023 should be the gentleman turn for southern Nigeria. And that accord was breached with the emergence of Atiku Abubakar, or the PDP leadership even allying Nigerians from other regions of the country to vie for the ticket of PDP. And at the end of the day, Atiku Abubakar, who is from the northeast, won the PDP presidential primaries. From that time on, things were never the same again in the party. These 5 governors, led by Nyesom Wike, popularly referred to as the G5, never really aligned with the PDP, never really worked with the presidential candidate of the PDP, and insisted very clearly that the constitution of the party says that you cannot have a presidential candidate of a party from one region of the country and also have the national chairman of the party from that same region of the country. Therefore, they have demanded that the national chairman, Dr. Iyorchia Ayu, resigns. Unfortunately, this matter was not properly handled by the PDP. And because this matter was not properly handled, it snowballed into a larger problem and crisis for the party. And the party, which was an opposition party, going into an election against a ruling party and still allowing itself to have the kind of division that they had, wasn't good enough.
So are you saying that the crisis, like you said, snowballed into what it is now, would have been a factor for its performance at the presidential level during the elections?
Very, very correct. Performance of PDP at the presidential election is a function of three major factors. The first factor was this division in PDP, where Governor Nyesom Wike and the other 5 governors and former 4 or 5 governors left did not support the party presidential candidate. The second issue was also these grounds that they were stating, that it would have been the turn of the South to produce a president after the North has had the presidency for 8 years under President Buhari. Thirdly, very importantly, was the Peter Obi factor, who left PDP at a point where PDP actually needed everybody to come together. And the Peter Obi factor really rubbed off on PDP, because the traditional states of the PDP, the traditional stronghold of the PDP, which are the South-South, the Southeast, and the North-Central, went the way of Peter Obi. If all these votes, coupled with the G5 governors and others who had other dissentment, probably all of these would have been harnessed and harvested for the PDP. I give it to Atiku Abubakar. Irrespective of all of this, he proved that he's actually a veteran in the Tuft, and he did so well to have amassed almost 7 million votes from the last election. But of course, you know that this matter is in court now.
Of course, those who are aggrieved already in court try to see how, because court is the last hope of the common man. But for this time, these are not common people, but
they're actually not common people.
But now let's look at, there's a point you raised, the PDP wanting a Southern presidential candidate, but you cannot use the same yardstick for the APC. For instance, the APC already in its constitution knows that after already in its own arrangements, after the 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari, power would definitely return back to the southern part, which that's what we saw with the emergence of the president-elect. And when you look at the PDP, the last administration of the PDP was from the south. So why would you be agitating for power to return back to the south?
You see, these are or were gentleman agreements. They are not clearly stated or scripted or written in the party's constitutions, as it were. You will also recall that just like the PDP, the APC didn't have a very smooth primaries. People from all other regions and zones of Nigeria equally contested. His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu only pulled the magic wand, and at the last minute he used that joker and got it.
All right, I will just hold your thoughts there. When we return, we'll continue from where you stop. But let's take a quick commercial break and we'll come back to our discussion. All right, it's in the program this morning on ITV. We're still looking at leadership crisis in the PDP. Earlier on, you were talking about the gentleman agreements or arrangements in the PDP and what it has resulted to with the other members of the party who we agreed and decided that they're going to go their different ways, even though they claim to still be members of the party. But there were allegations that they worked for other political parties during the presidential election. But that's left for the party to prove that. But let's look at the accusation against the former chairman, this time the one that stepped aside from his word. He was suspended for anti-party activities. He was accused of not paying party dues, and he failed to win his polling unit, and it was also alleged that he did not take part in the elections, that is the state, the governorship and House Assembly's election. He did not vote. Well, it is enough reasons for a national chairman of his status to be suspended by his own word.
Well, you talked of allegations. I do not think these are still allegations. Obviously, Governor Nyesom Wike worked for the APC during the last election. Governor Seyi Makinde worked for the APC during the last election. Governor Samuel Otom worked for the Labour Party during the last election. Governor Lawrence Ifeanyi Ugwanyi worked for the Labour Party during the last election.
Are you sure this is not just your perception? Because the party might not be so happy to hear that their governors...
It is no longer a perception. It was clear, very, very clear, and they had a strong arrangement, and you saw how it worked out for them. These governors worked for these various political parties. Now, coming to the issue of the suspension of Senator Iyorchia Ayu. I saw it coming a long time ago. This is politics, and these people have been looking for a way to have their way for a very long time. Unfortunately, this opportunity just provided them the avenue to do what they had planned for a very long time. Dr. Iyorchia Ayu, a fine gentleman, former Senate President, could not have worked for another party than the PDP. I do not agree that he worked for another political party. So that cannot be said to be anti-party. As I said in my opening remarks, one of the problems that affected the People's Democratic Party was the Peter Obi factor. And the Peter Obi factor, as I said, robbed off the established goodwill that PDP had hitherto always had in the South-South, Southeast, and North-Central. So, in Benue State, aside the governor openly declaring for the Labour Party, a lot of people in Benue State wanted to vote for the Labour Party. And as a result of that, a lot of them went and voted for the Labour Party. Benue State also had a very formidable candidate. You see, elections are in two levels, the primary and the secondary election. You and I can only participate as electorate in the secondary election, where we go and use our PVC and cast our vote or ballot. But the party election is still largely determined by the primary election is still largely determined by the political party. And during the amendment of the Electoral Act, the president did not sign the Electoral Act as was sent to him by the National Assembly, because there was no indirect primary. His political party and so many other people forced him to reject it, and they went back and re-amended it and included the indirect primaries. Now, with the indirect primaries, it means that you will go through the delegate system, and you and I have seen what the delegate system has done. The case of Dr. Iyorchia Ayu was not different. Benue State had a Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, a man that the Benue people see by our standard as a good man. Being a priest of the Holy Roman Catholic Church, they see him as one person who can deliver the goods of democracy to the people of Benue State. Samuel Otom did not do that. Gabriel Suswam did not do that. Even George Akume could not have said to have done that. And the people after 24 years said, we needed a Messiah. And they saw the Messiah in a priest of God, a reverend father. That changed the course of things in Benue State. So Benue State now went for Labour Party, and in the presidential election, old women in Benue State were asking, show me Father Alia's party, let me vote for Father Alia. And they would tell them, no, Father Alia is not contesting now. Father Alia's election is in the next 2 weeks. And they say, no, don't deceive us. Just show me Father Alia's party. I will still vote for him like that. So they voted because of Father Alia, and they voted because of the person they saw. So Iyo Chayu was a victim of what has happened in Benue State. And the people of Benue State felt that they were not really protected under the APC government. Remember the farmer headers issue? And a lot of them who were not well informed felt that it was an ethnic thing. I interacted with the Benue people and to find out what the situation was. Some of them still felt that there was this issue between the thief and the Fulani. And they were not so sure of another Fulani president. As good as they felt Atiku Abubakar was, they felt things will still be the same. The Fulanis will still invade Benue State, and that was what happened.
Deviate from our discussion. We'll leave the issue of crisis, those other ones to maybe other discussion. But let's just repeat our discussion on the person of Ayu, for instance. You've already established that it might not be an allegation that there was anti-party.
No, not anti-party, not by Iyo Chayu.
But that
if you say anti-party, it will be the governor. Iyo Chayu as a person worked for PDP, voted for PDP.
But unfortunately, he lost in his work.
He lost, and that is the problem.
So what about the allegation of not paying party dues, which, you know, that's where they fund most of the activities of the political parties? The chairman of a political party is supposed to live by example.
That is true. I am not from Benue State, but I know that those who suspended him, who purportedly suspended him, or ought to be the real people that suspended him, have come out now to say they were not the ones that suspended him.
There's another
they did not suspend him. That they only forged their signatures and all of that. Let's wait and see how all of this will play out.
Although I know that stepping aside is not based on this suspension. It's based on the court's ruling. That was why he stepped aside.
I'm very happy you are aware of this.
But when you look at the way the activities are playing, now if you look at the former national chairman also, during the Uche Secondos time, it was the same incident that played out, the same word that suspended him first before he finally...
Yeah, that was the former governor of the old Anambra State, Okwesileze Nwodo. Okwesileze Nwodo was suspended just a day or so to the convention, presidential primaries convention of 2014, and then the deputy national chairman had to step in. Yes, so it has happened before in PDP, and the deputy national chairman went in and still delivered the primaries in which Goodluck Jonathan emerged.
Like Wike was saying yesterday that the PDP should not be jubilating that Ayu might still come back, that it's only the NEC that has the final say, and the court cannot really decide for the party. Is that how it's supposed to be?
Where there is a crisis, you go to court. The court has not decided yet. What they have is only an interim injunction, stopping him or restraining him from parading himself as national chairman. And as a law-abiding citizen, I think it was the right thing that he did to step aside. Let another person, the highest ranking officer in the party, take over, pending when these issues are resolved, both in court and the process of the party. You remember, The party in its laws, as the constitution of the PDP, as amended 2017, as amended, has said no member of the National Working Committee, that is the executive, national executive of the party, will be removed by any means except by the National Working Committee resolution. If that is the law of PDP, if that is the constitution of PDP, then let them test it in court. It is only the court at this point that can decide, no longer you and I.
All right, going forward, I think we'll very soon be ending this segment. The new or the acting chairman, so what should he be doing now, since how to bring back the House together as we wrap up this segment?
What the acting national chairman should do should be to bring back the PDP as one family. The PDP as it is now is actually a house divided against itself. A party that did not win presidential election, or a party that is in court, or a party that was rigged out of the presidential election should not be carrying itself the way the PDP is currently carrying itself. There should be a lot of reconciliation. Wielding the big stick at every point shouldn't be the best thing that the PDP should be doing now. And I will advise the acting national chairman to mend fences, to see how he can reduce the fault lines that are emerging from the crisis in PDP. What is he expected to do now? He should gather his people as a formidable house. Let them approach this issue at the tribunal as a house that is not divided. Let them stay action on the suspension of so many people and see how they can preach peace and come back together. This should not be the time where they should be expelling people or suspending people.
All right, I must thank you so much as A.K. Peters, Executive Director of Setting Leadership Initiative, Concept Development. Is an author, farmer, and also a public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
It's my pleasure.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we return, the program this morning on ITV continues.